got the interior still going together. This is turning into a huge project as I keep adding things. Now, let's see what we're going to talk about right now. Seat belts. Now, this kit didn't bring seat belts or buckles, so I decided, well, may as well make my own. So I took a look at the seat belts in the car, and I'll probably put a picture of what they look like right around here somewhere. And I decided, well, that doesn't look so tough. Let me try and replicate that. Well, famous last words. But after a bunch of trial and error, I finally got the buckles done. If you look here, you can see this one's already done and attached to the seat. Let's see if we can give you a nice close-up of that. Done in the same style as the original, as the ones in the car. And if you know the car, you know that they're on a solid mount that's right on the side of the seat with the buckle at the end. And of course, as you can see, the orange release button for the tab that goes in there for the seatbelt, which I haven't added that yet. That's coming next. But right now, we have our seatbelt buckles. So let me show you what one looks like before it's installed. All right, can we focus? There we go. Now I made this by using the evergreen sprues. I have the tiny little, do I have any up here? These things. Plastic sprues from Evergreen, you can pick them up at any hobby shop. What I did was I cut the head of the buckle from a larger sized piece of styrene rod, and then the mount from a smaller size of styrene rod, and just glued them together. It's just a two-piece assembly. It's very simple. And then all the rest is just the paint work. For the plastic housing, the release button. So it's very simple, easy to do. And now it's all about just installing it on the seat, which we have to get the right curvature to get it to just slightly lean over the seat the way it does in the real car. Can you see? I already showed you that, but let's look at it again. You can see how it just curves over the side bolster of the seat the way it does in the real car. So let's install this one on the other seat. Now the first thing is I gotta get the curvature correct and the length correct. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this handy little tool. Pick this up from Hobby Lobby, and this thing has been invaluable for creating bends and curves and items depending on what I need. That's in the jewelry section of Hobby Lobby, and basically you just grab it, and whatever the diameter of the curve you want depends on where on these pair of pliers you put the part and bend it. And there you go. Here you can see how much more of a curve I put on it. These pliers, as I said, they're in the jewelry section of Hobby Lobby. You guys should pick them up because they really are helpful in our hobby. Okay, now let me see what I can do here. See if I'm happy with that curve there, and I do believe that I am. You know, you could take a little more of a bend in. And that is better there. Okay, now Attaching it is easy as can be. Just a little drop of CA glue right there. You don't have to worry if the glue spreads out a little bit, as this part will never again be seen once the seat is installed in the car. And there we go. Now we're going to wait for the glue to set a little bit, and then we're just going to cut off the excess here. Which I think we're ready to do that now. There we go. Perfect. And now, as you can see, we have our seat belts. Whoops. Let's hold it to the camera here where you guys can actually see it. And there we have our seat belts installed, much like in the real car. There we go. And if you're looking here, I was working on the floor mats, as he does have black floor mats in a photo that he sent me. So I created these similar, well, pretty much the same procedure I used when I made the floor mats for the Corvair that I built for my buddy Dave. Now, as you can see, I have edging in the on the floor mats. I have like a tread design in it, just trying to make it look a little more interesting. Now that floor mat will sit right there. Well, I haven't permanently installed them yet, as it's going to cover over the carpet, and I really like the look of the carpet. So I'm not really even sure if I want to use the floor mats. Although Greg does have them in his car, so... what do you guys think? Let's get a consensus from the modeling community. Floor mats or no floor mats? Oh, there you can see the carpet and the floor mat. So I suppose if I can let some of the carpet peek through, might not be a bad thing. We've also installed the instrument cluster, is fully installed. Went ahead and painted in the speaker covers, as there is quite a bit of detail on this dashboard that has to be done if you're looking to make an accurate model. Now I'm working on gauges for the cluster, and that'll be coming up next, as I'll go over how I put the gauges in, what kind of gauges I use, and also the how I made the floor mats. Alright guys, stick around, there's a lot more to come. Alright guys, we're continuing here with the build, and we've got most of the interior together, but we still got a few more details to get going before we start adding Greg's personal requests. Now the first thing I'm doing is creating our seat belts. I didn't have any seatbelt material in gray to match this interior, so let me tell you what I did in order to make my own seatbelts. I have the Tamiya 2mm masking tape, which I found is almost the exact same width as my seatbelt material. So what I did was I took it out to the paint shop and painted it gray. Painted both sides, and now I have my gray seat belts. Here's the other one here, just hanging out to dry. Now I'm going to be adding, if I can find them, from Model Car Garage, one of my favorite detail suppliers. Their seatbelt hardware. MCG 2089 is the kit number, which comes with all sorts of goodies for different types of seatbelts. So since I've already installed the seatbelt buckles on the seats, all we need are the strikers. So we just have to pick one design, which I think I'm going to go with this one here, because I think it looks most like the original ones. I happen to have two of these, so those are going to fit perfectly in there. And then we'll have our seatbelts after we assemble everything. Then the next bit of detailing we're doing is we're going to install gauge faces. Again, this is from Model Car Garage, their MCG 2056 kit. I've used this before. It comes with all sorts of different gauge faces printed on clear, like a clear film. And basically what you're going to do is just going to cut them out. Let's see if we can see these. And for the fiero, since they have, that's the back. Let's look at the other side. That's going to be facing you. Since the fieros have more or less orange backlit gauges, I did paint them orange. And once I cut them out, I'm going to be gluing them into the instrument cluster so that we'll have full-on Pontiac style gauges. So that's the plan for those bit of details going into the car. Then Greg has requested that I make a urn that his father's ashes are kept in, and that's going to symbolize his father riding in the car with him. And it's going to be a permanent addition to the model. I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to put it yet, but this is this is just right now a prototype of the vase that would hold the urn that would hold his father's ashes. And I'm just playing with it. This was actually made by Mrs. Onyx Fiero, as she just quickly whipped one up and painted it to match a picture that Greg sent me. And the shape is not correct, but we just wanted to have a mock-up so that I'd have the ability to plan where I'm going to put this and how I'm going to set it up in the car. So she made that really quick for me. Very talented lady that she is. And now I get to play with where I'm going to position it, and then I've got to figure out how to make the urn look like the one that Greg is asking for. I'm going to put a picture of it right here so that you guys can see exactly what I'm trying to replicate. So let's get back to work. We're working on the steering wheel now, and let me just cancel this behind me because there's too much noise here. Okay, now I think you guys can hear me better. Now I'm working on the steering wheel and steering column, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to put a little more detail into the steering column. So what I did here was I used a little bit of round sprue, and I installed the ignition switch and the hazard light switch onto the steering column. And now what I'm working on, which is kind of crazy, I mean, you'll probably never even be able to see this stuff once it's all painted black, but what the heck. Now I'm working on the wiper stalk cruise control switch for the column. Now, if you look at the Fiero steering column, there is a big block that's on the opposite side of, toward the side of the left door, or the left side of the steering column, let's just say. There's a big block on the column itself, which is supposed to go, let me see if I can zoom in a little more and give you guys a better look at this. Now, on the steering wheel, see where I tried to glue it in before? Right about there, in that spot where the paint is gone, That's where I'm going to glue it's a big square block on the steering column on that side. And that's where the wiper stalk comes out of. And then just below that will be the tilt steering column stalk. So here we have, get a better look at the, let's see, let me get a better look at that. There we have the ignition switch and the hazard light switch, which are both in the column. So what I did was I cut a piece of square sprue, drilled a hole right in the middle of it, and shoved a piece of round sprue through it. And this is going to be the basis of our wiper stalk. I don't know if you guys can see this. I mean, you know, it is a little tiny. Whoops. There goes our steering wheel. Now I'm just going to test fit this here. Okay, that works there. That's going to sit there, so we need to drill a hole right about there for our cruise control stalk. Now we're going to be using a different diameter rod for the cruise control stalk. Okay, so that's going to be just an offset angle. Take time to get another little piece of rod. We're going to be using music wire. This you can find at any hobby shop. Very thin wire, which works perfectly for creating small controls like this. There we go. Our piano wire, or music wire. And now we're going to make sure that the hole we just drilled is big enough to insert the music wire. And there it is. So that's going to sit there. And that's going to go there. And we have successfully made this much more complicated than it needs to be, which works fine for me. I know I've said it before, and I'll say it 100 times. Making all these crazy little details are really the fun part of the build for me. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in this case, I think it's going to work. Okay, there's our tilt steering stalk, and here's our wiper stalk. And I wanted to use two separate types of rods because I wanted two different diameters so that you wouldn't confuse one for the other, and they are different on both, on the car itself. Okay guys, there is our tilt steering column stalk installed. Trying to see if you guys can get a really good look at that. Okay, so there we go guys. We have our two, let's see, can you guys see this? Let's see if we can zoom in. There it is. We have our turn signal stalk and our turn signal wiper cruise control stalk and our tilt steering stalk installed in the steering wheel, along with the key cylinder. And I knocked off the hazard light, so I'm going to have to cut up another one. Okay guys, here we have the instrument cluster is finally finished. As you can see here, we have our gauges installed. These are from the model car garage gauge set that I showed in the earlier videos in this series. All backlit in the Pontiac and Pontiac orange glowy instrument cluster lights. I think it came out pretty neat. So it's also very, very... Oh, let me turn this off here. Looks very cool, very realistic. And with the backlit instruments, you can see the red glow, which is customary Pontiac. You can also see it on the radio display, also glowing in red, and the red glow from all the other instruments. Okay, guys, and here we have our completed dashboard, instrument cluster, steering assembly, everything all in one. This was quite a bit of a exercise in detailing. You can see all the extra instruments, the signal stalk, the tilt steering stalk. I don't know if you guys can make out the hazard light switch that's installed in there along with the ignition switch. All the instruments in the cluster. Here you can see all the other instruments and parts are all been detailed. This is one of the most detailed dashes that I've ever done. I think it looks great. Several different tones. In here you can see the metallic tones on the faces of the instrument cluster. The bezels for the other instruments. The slightly different tone of gray from the steering wheel as opposed to the gray on the dashboard. Because I wanted to simulate as if the steering wheel is leather. So I wanted it to have just a slightly different tone than the rest of the dash. Just kind of to indicate that it's a different material. Now I just have to paint the badges in the steering wheel and one badge in the mat pocket, and this entire dashboard assembly will be done. A lot of work in this one. Alright guys, that's going to be it. We got one more video coming for the interior, in which case I think it'll be done with all the final detailing, and you'll get to see the whole thing all together. Alright then, I'll see you on the next one.